In the United States, the fallout from the horrible killing of George Floyd continues and is getting even more partisan. A memorial service was held for Floyd in Minneapolis today, attended by civil rights activists as well as family. Pointedly, there was an 8-minute silence commemorating the period of time that police officer Derek Chauvin's knee was on George Floyd's neck. A convicted criminal who served a number of jail terms for armed robbery and drug offences, Floyd was described as a gentle giant. Officer Chauvin has been charged with murder, while 3 other officers face lesser charges. After more than a week of protests, violent riots and lawlessness, Donald Trump posted a video today on social media.
I understand the pain that people are feeling. The death of George Floyd on the streets of Minneapolis was a grave tragedy. It should never have happened. It has filled Americans all over the country with horror, anger, and grief. We support the right of peaceful protesters, and we hear their pleas. The voices of law-abiding citizens must be heard, and heard very loudly.
People say the president should be trying to unify the country. There's the president trying to heal, but the polarisation is so extreme and the focus on Trump so obsessive that his enemies in politics and the media just don't want to hear that. Bizarrely, Twitter banned that video, citing copyright issues. It's still available on YouTube, and it includes condemnation of violence, as you'd expect. Also, it expresses support for police.
No one is more upset than fellow law enforcement officers by the small handful who fail to abide by their oath to serve and protect. We support the overwhelming majority of police officers who are incredible in every way and devoted public servants. We must all work together as a society to expand opportunity and to create a future of greater dignity and promise for all of our people.
And incredibly, this support for the police, this has become the new flashpoint, with protesters and activists now demanding the defunding of police forces. Now, this is crazy stuff, the stuff of real anarchy, but it's winning support from people close to the Democrats, including Hillary Clinton's former press secretary, Brian Fallon, who is a Democrat commentator and activist. His tweet prompted a response online from Trump's press secretary, who said she couldn't believe she had to say it, but do not defund the police. Pretty obvious retort, I would have thought. And at a briefing, she shared details with the media of attacks on police over the past 10 days.
I've watched a lot of your coverage. I've watched a lot of the nation's coverage, and let's go through some of the things that happen when officers don't defend and protect themselves. In St. Louis, 4 police officers were shot. In Las Vegas, an officer was shot in the head and is on life support. In New York, a cop was beat up by people. In Providence, 4 to 5 police officers and state troopers were injured. And in Ashbury Park, New Jersey, a police officer was injured. Police officers are out on the front lines. They're defending and protecting you as you come into this building each and every day, Jim. We owe them honor, we owe them respect, and when they are under attack, they have the ability to defend themselves.
Now, as you know, much of the media are intent on making this whole episode all about Trump, even when it's primarily about city and state law enforcement in mostly Democrat-controlled cities and states. Clearly, the media and the Democrats have overreached in their anti-Trump obsession. Now they've gotten themselves into a situation where the police have become part of the political divide. Trump is with the police and his enemies are against them.
Well, let me be very clear. I want Joe Biden to make sure he listens to this. You do not have my vote unless you oppose defunding the police. I will hound you throughout the city. Secondly, I want you to, other words, law and order. Everyone wants law and order. And for you not to mention or address the issue of the police department is ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. And I'm going to be clear. This is going to shock people. There is no systematic discrimination in a city that is run by minorities. In Los Angeles.
Extraordinary stuff, isn't it, when African-American civil rights activists are having to call out the Democrats on law and order. And for those who say America lacks national leadership, have a look at the latest from the alternative.
The act of protesting should never be allowed to overshadow the reason for the protest. The act of protesting should never be allowed to overshadow the reason for the protest in the first place. And what I worry about tomorrow night in Wilmington, for example, there's a lot of really good people. I'm going to be out. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be up in Pennsylvania. But tomorrow night, what I worry a little bit about is you and many others are going to be out there protesting legitimately for change. But we can't allow the protesting.
The Democrats expect him to beat Donald Trump in 6 months. This has been a shocking 10 days for the US. The racial tensions have been heartbreaking and the lawlessness has been sickening. But so much media coverage and political rhetoric has ignored the core issues and played the same old anti-Trump games. And you don't have to be a fan of his to see that. Law and order is not a gimmick. It's not a political play. It is not negotiable. Law and order is fundamental. The rule of law is what sets us apart in civilised nations. It keeps us free. And here we are in an election year, and law and order is now going to be a major issue. And it looks to me like the Democrats are getting onto the wrong side of that argument.